Every great entrepreneur story's got these years in them. They fold, they go bankrupt, they learn their lessons, they get back on the horse. It's so common. Most people that don't do this work, that stay safe, they'll never really understand what this feels like. But this to me is where like real stars are actually born, is in these years that now you've gone through. It's all the same. It's the same pressure. It's the same feeling. I've watched it destroy families. I've seen the pressure crush. And most people don't realize this. They think growth is good, but growth is very painful.
Dude, growth is great. Out of control growth is not great. It's just be like going to the gym and then just grabbing all these weights and just trying to work like all these weird things that you got going on and be like, I'm burning, I'm sweating. And it's like, what the hell are you doing?
Growth hurts. It's shredding muscle tissue apart on a daily basis. It's not fun. It's work like you wouldn't believe. There's so much scar tissue in the growth itself. I know these pain points of wondering if you're going to make it through tomorrow. I feel like I felt that for years. And so many of the best stories I've heard are where someone will tell me every year it felt like they would barely make it in business.
And then all of a sudden everything kind of started imploding and say, okay, let me back up. I got to offload everything. There's no jets. There's no lifestyle. There's no vacation. Let's just focus back and hammer down on the business. You know, it's really hard for people to do that.
A lot of businesses would have folded. It takes great leadership under pressure to be able to get through those times.
I'm 100% present in the moment and I can only control what I can control. Just get hyper obsessed with winning.
We're here with Jason, a young 30-year-old stud who comes from a legendary family in Utah, a family that has sold billions of dollars in sales. These are some of the most influential, literally, salespeople in the world. I think the family of the Haugen family. Let's just start there. And the big point that we just drew right to, that I was headed to, the place I was going to, is how do you become so powerful, so wealthy, so successful, and raise such talented young children like Jason here? So that was kind of where I was headed. Let me get into the actual meat of the thought. I think I just saw Andy Elliott speak to this whole thing, is like this whole concept of like, I'm not giving my kids money. Fuck that. They're not getting my money. I'm not creating generational wealth. Everyone talks about generational wealth. And he kind of put, again, it was probably for the soundbite, but I loved his sentiment and the words that followed. I'm not building generational wealth just to give money away to my family. And I like that sentiment because I think that destroys children. It just ruins the foundation of kids. So you sort of went there and said, well, my parents had the jets. I didn't. They had the money. I didn't. They made me really respect and appreciate money. And I've always thought, now this is theory for me, and it's likely because I've been around kids that blow my mind. I've been around so many young children, like here and there, not all the time, but consistent enough over my adult life to recognize there's a way to do it. And who knows how you tap into it or why this family succeeds and why this one doesn't. But if you do build success, how do you transfer the real value to that child without turning them into lazy pieces of shit that think that they're entitled and that the world's just going to be an easy ride for them? And that's part of the problem with generational wealth, is it does that. Well, in your case, it didn't. So, okay, number one, I just think this is a powerful conversation because I'm around rich people all the time. And so are you. There are so many rich kids out there that are spoiled little brats, and it pains my heart. It pains it. How do you solve that problem, Jason? From your perspective, you're a byproduct of a great situation, really, that turned out pretty amazing.
Right. Yeah, it's a unique, like I had the craziest childhood, man. Like I could get into the people that I've been able to meet. I mean, from having essentially credentials at the White House, and we could go in and out of the White House anytime we wanted to getting, personal Christmas cards from presidents and legends.
For real.
I remember touring around with George Foreman one time we had a big tour bus, and like, we just had a crazy childhood. But the thing that my mom and dad always taught us is, their money is their money. Our money is our money. We're with them. They're not with us. If we're going to get pizza, we're all getting pizza. No one's getting their special rigatoni because we're all like, yeah, you're with us. My mom always said, hey, the time that you invite us to dinner, then we'll let you get what you want. Because, if you're picking up the bill, you're kind of doing what we want you to do, which is very unique. But it's this dilemma that we all go through, because I'm going through the same thing. Like I have a 5-year-old, I have a 6-month-old. I've taken my daughter on our, now I have a plane. So now we've, been able to take her and do fun things and travel a little bit. And it's this dilemma that I have that, what do I do? But I really respect what my mom and dad did, because they made us hustle. I say we, because there's 4 of us. I have a twin brother. I have an older brother and then an older sister who My twin brother's an entrepreneur. My older brother works for me, actually, just running a huge department in our company. And then my sister actually owns a grocery store up in Canada. And so we all have this like burning desire to be like better than the average, right? Like my mom, like every single dinner table was a conference, a seminar. My mom and dad made us read books at an early age. They were making us listen to the audio. Like we weren't just traveling with them to these conferences. We had to attend the conferences, write notes, write reports and different things like that. But they just started at an early age that you just got to hustle and work for what you want in life. Nothing's given to you. And, we always grew up, we never had the expectation that we were getting anything. I still don't. I have zero idea how much my mom and dad are worth. Zero idea. I don't care. Never seen a trust, never seen a will. Right. Well, I know they have that stuff. There's theirs, ours. There's always been this funny thing where like, hey, whoever has the most net worth is going to get the most. But, we don't talk about that very much.
Bro, I love that you said that, because I've always thought if there was going to be a will for me, I don't fucking want it. I could give two shits. Like you see so many people kids talk about the will. Like they're so hung up on that. I just don't even want it. I really don't. I'm telling my parents right now, right. I don't want anything. I just want photos, love. That's it. Be seen. I want you to be proud of me. That's all I want. At your death, just be proud of me. I don't want anything. Give it all the other kids. I just give two shits. But I pride myself on having sort of this temperament and this personality. Like I pride myself, no matter how wealthy they get or how wealthy they were. I pride myself that reigns through me, and I think it's rare. I think it's rare in you. I don't think I've ever heard another person say that. I don't think, as the conversation's never really gotten brought up, but you hear it so often, the squabble over the will. And then you see someone die. I don't know how many times you've seen this in families, even when it's not a lot of money, and it rips families apart if things go to probate, or because there wasn't a will in place or there wasn't a trust in place. It is important to do that stuff so that you don't have these situations arise. Just a little side note out there, I've seen this destroy families, and it even happened in my mom's side of the family between her siblings, because my grandparents didn't have a trust or will in place, and it created a friction, and now a brother and sister don't talk to each other. And it's so weird to me. It's like, it's so petty, and it's because people, I don't know, man, when they see money on the table, they change and they get so weird. It's because their relationship with money is oddly like not correct, in my opinion. You're clearly a guy that's hung up on value, providing value. That's where you see worth. You know what I mean? Is what value do I provide the world? That's all I give a fuck about. I don't even want it. If I didn't earn it, if I didn't bleed for it, I don't want it. It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know about you, but
I mean, you see a lot of craziness around. So my dad always kind of made it might not be right or wrong, but my dad's always like, when you expect to be great and you become great, that's the expectation. You don't overreact to it, right? It's a lot of people that never thought they'd have money, all of a sudden got a little bit of money, and now they think they're God's gift to earth. When my dad's like, hey, this is the standard. I expect you to be wealthy. I expect you to live a great life. I expect you to have a lifestyle. I expect you to drive, decent cars. I expect you, like, this is the expectation. So when all of a sudden we got that, it's like, okay, like this is the expectation. We never made it big. I mean, we lived in a 20,000 square foot home on 250 acres of property on a side of a mountain that was absolutely picturesque, gorgeous place here in Utah. And we never really thought much of it. Like my mom and dad never talked about money to a point that like we didn't care. Like my friends that were super obsessed about what car they were driving at 16, be like, dude, I have four wheels. My mom and dad made me buy it. I have no payments. Their number one rule was you basically could buy your own, you had to buy your own car, but you could not get a payment, or, couldn't get a loan. And so like it was just a very different like life that we lived. And I feel like that a lot of people that revolve their whole family around money, that's when they start getting a little dicey around like these wills and like literally waiting for people to die. And they're just like, oh, what am I going to get? Well, like with us, like we don't care. Like it's almost, I don't care about money to a fault.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's not how I live my life. And that's never how I've seen my mom and dad live their life.
So good. This is such a good conversation. I like to sit in these topics that I think carry a lot of weight and a lot of value and that are under talked about. How was your relationship with your dad? Were you scared of him? Again, like people are going to probably obsess over this that have kids, especially people that have means. and they're very aware. They're very aware because it's naturally who a lot of my audience who we attract are people that are doing well. It's who
Right.
show, my coaching group got 100 entrepreneurs in it that are all, a lot of them thriving. It's just sort of the circle but again, I see the kids and I know they're wondering if they're doing it right, but they keep feeding into it. So this is a good question. Like, how should you be as a parent? Should you fear your father? It's a really great question. And for years, I think from my own perspective, the thing that I was fighting for the most that allowed me to be working for something at a young age was I was trying to prove myself, and like good or bad, it drove me and it made me fight so hard. So now I look back on it as a gift. During the time I thought he was an asshole. He was hard. I don't know if you sense any of that or how you like had to level up around your old man, but oftentimes I find in great people, there's some unique connection between the father and the son, or the father and the daughter even, but there's some unique connection that really tells a bigger story if you get into it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think more than fear, it's a respect thing. And, it was crazy because like my mom and dad were probably the largest network marketers at the time in the world. I mean, they had 37 countries. I mean, back in the 80s and 90s, I mean, they were doing billion. I mean, they were just massive.
This is Amway?
I mean, they like literally, if they held an
Amway, right.
If they had a small business meeting, that was selling out the Delta Center. So like with 17, I mean, in one announcement, they could sell out 15,000 tickets. It was pretty
amazing,
pretty crazy. And so it was really weird to see everybody view my mom and dad as like these gods walking down. I mean, like, dude, they were like as much celebrity like as you could be. I mean, we had to have security. We had to have a big gate around all of our house. We had to have all kinds of crazy stuff growing up. And we had multiple different tour buses that had multiple different paint jobs. And a lot of times we flew private because they couldn't walk through an airport, which if you're listening to this just sounds bizarre, but
this is the original Tony Robbins.
It was the way we grew up.
This is like the original.
It's kind of crazy. Yeah. I mean, dude, I remember like literally being with some of these guys that we view as these massive speakers before they were ever anybody when I was a little kid. It was kind of crazy, but there's always that respect thing with them. And like we always had to act a little different because we were around a lot of people. And so we had to act like these little, perfect people, perfect kids. But it was more of just, I loved my dad, respect my dad. It was also a unique childhood that my mom and dad were on the road 300 days a year. And we hardly ever saw them until I was in high school is when they kind of started getting out of that grind, which goes to tell you how hard you got to work to make some of these things happen. But yeah, they were on the road 300 days a year for most of our childhood. We traveled with them a lot, but it's very unique. But I just wanted, like right now, like I just want my dad to be proud of me. Like, so that's like the biggest motivation to me. I don't care about the money. I don't care. Like the best moment like that I've had in a long time, like minus, my daughter being born and all this sappy stuff, is looking my dad across from me in our plane, taking my dad on my money, my dime, going to Napa Valley to go wine tasting because he's never done that in his life.
Oh man, that
was like the most magical moment for me. That I was like, yeah, I'm doing this for my dad. Paid for the whole trip, paid for everything for his birthday. It was the coolest thing I've ever done.
I feel that. That's powerful, and I feel like I resonate more with you on this thread than probably anything. Maybe that's the thing that really connected me and you. Was this sort of connection to things that I think have real merit and real value. And that to me speaks just volumes about you. And it's really connecting to my own story too, and how I feel like where I feel loved and value, it would be in that situation. And I think it could be misread many times. Maybe people are doing it wrong. Maybe I did it wrong. Like, hey, do you see me winning, Dad? Like, oh, look at this. Do you see this? I did this. Do you see this? And like, I'd always call him what I did. I don't call him and tell him every win anymore. I've grown past that. But for so many years I did it. And now I'm more aware of like that may have looked arrogant or like I was showing off or, all right, I get it. But in my mind, I was just like so hammering that thought. It's because he never quite gave enough for me to feel fully validated ever. And maybe that's the secret to how he operates. He always held enough back where I always was hungry to give more. And that kept me winning. It kept me winning. But it was, to prove myself. And I don't know, man, there's something to this, you call it respect. I get the respecting. For me, there was some fear in there, but definite respect.
Right.
But it's that yearning to be seen by the person you probably admire most.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Cause I mean, I want to be my dad, right? Like he's more well known for the things that he's done, his philanthropy, who he is as a person, how he treats people than he is who cares about the money. I mean, you would never know.
That's
I mean, my
amazing.
dad shops at Walmart for his
I love it.
clothes. He buys one pair of shoes a year. He's that guy.
Yeah. That's very
But
cool. That says a lot about him too.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, one time I remember it was in network marketing, and I made my that month. It was the last day of the month, and I remember I'm sitting in San Francisco, and this kind of goes along of like them pushing us and just wanting to have them be proud of you and like just, tell them the wins, right? Like you were just saying is I remember texting him, it hit midnight, boom. And I'm sitting in this little, Chinese restaurant in Chinatown in San Francisco. And I look at my numbers and I had just hit a 6-figure rank for the fully qualified. Like I had hit all my qualifications. Boom. That was last month. I barely scraped over by a few thousand points. And I was like, Dad, I just made, this big check, 6-figure check. And he's like, all he did was shoot me back a text of, I remember when that was a lot of money. There's another rank ahead of you. I was like, oh,
there it is right
thanks,
there,
bro. Yeah. But he just keeps pushing me.
Yeah. Well, that's it right there. You don't want to feed too much into that in your own child. I think you want to hold back something. You know what I mean? Always be aware there's more and keep them grounded, like to the pain. Like, I'd love to talk about how your dad brought philanthropy in your life or how he introduced that world to your, like, I'm super aware now where I'm at in life, no matter where I'm at, it doesn't matter. There's always a child out there suffering somewhere. There's a child getting raped right now. I think about that. I systematize that into my day, and it gets me out of my own way, gets me out of my own ego, gets me out of my bad emotions where I'm complaining. I'm super aware of that. And I love systematizing these heavy burdens, these heavy thoughts on my heart. It helps me be more effective as I communicate. It helps me bleed in the rooms that I walk into. And it grounds me to the whole thing. And I think it's something I love to teach other people, especially entrepreneurs that come in and they have not made philanthropy a big part of their life, connecting to real pain, children with cancer, something. There's so many causes out there that I think humanize you in ways that are so profound. And if you could teach that to a child, if you could embed that as a kid, that's a game changer. Was your dad doing that his whole life since you can remember?
Since I can remember, yeah. I mean, most of our Thanksgivings around Thanksgiving time was us buying big old truckload full of turkeys, giving out turkeys to homeless people. They were given. I mean, we did so much everywhere that they went and we traveled. It was just part of what we did.
Yeah. Well, let's give some practical, like really good advice to an audience here. Getting around your dad must not be easy, primarily because he's a high demand human. And from you as the son, getting the perspective that you had your whole life, all these people clamored to him. You know what I mean? All these fans everywhere. A guy's a legend in the network marketing space, one of the originators and one of the biggest companies in the world ever, especially in that industry. So here's the Tony Robbins of that world. This was like before personal development was big. That's essentially what your dad was doing. He was promoting a better you, a better life, a freer life. Don't be a slave type of thing, which I love this conversation. And so watching about sort of how a man like your dad with so much demand, how do you get near people like that? Because you'll hear me, I'm sure you talk about it. You want to get around the right people. You want to get in the right rooms. Like I know there's always an investment. There's always this or that. But one of the gold nuggets that I think is never talked about and underutilized as a resource, but it shouldn't be used for that reason. It's just the truth of what it actually does for you is charity. My connection to some of the greatest men I've ever met, and women for that matter, has been my commitment into charities. Becoming a title sponsor at an event was the fastest gateway to actually a childhood hero of mine who was an NFL quarterback. Yeah, it was through charity though. Like I couldn't have called him or I couldn't have knocked on his, how am I going to get near him? It had just happened to be through charity. And I kept noticing this reoccurring theme. Every time I gave even when I didn't have money to give, I would find a way to say yes. When our business was barely surviving, I'd find a way to say yes. Right. And I would just believe that it was my duty and I had to do it. But what I kept finding on the back end, and this is fun to now tell people, because this is not why you do charity, but hey, if it helps the cause, then fuck it, right? Let me give you some extra incentive. You want to get near titans in the communities that you serve, go figure out what their causes are and then commit to those. It's a better gateway to getting on the golf course with them, I promise you, than any other way. And that's just been my experience with charity. But, looking at your dad, all these people, like, how do you get around a man that's so powerful, that has so much demand? Like, what are the tricks of the trade to get near someone that has that much influence in the world?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it can be done through charity and spending time with people. I think the biggest thing for me, at least, is just be you, be
Yeah.
authentic. Go in with a, like go in leading with your heart, not leading with your head.
Yeah.
On a mission to say, the only reason I'm here is to do X, Y, and Z with this individual, because they can smell that out. These guys
Totally.
that have been around the block, they can be like, okay, like all you care about is you want an autograph, or you want a picture for the gram, or you want this or that.
Yeah.
One thing for me is I've been able to spend a lot of time with a lot of people, because they're always like, hey, what can I do for you? And I'm like, I don't know, buy an RV. Like there's really there's really not much you can do for me. I was just trying to build my RV brand. And so, but then the cool thing with me is I've been around so many powerful, wealthy dude, presidents from, I remember Johnny Cash, George Foreman, being with Robert Kiyosaki before he was even anybody. He was just a little author in a Barnes and Noble in Scottsdale, where my dad actually kind of stumbled upon him, and he kind of blew up actually because of my dad's Amway group, which he might not say that, but we have a lot of the documentation to prove it. But a lot of these people. So when I've gotten around in these circles, I've just cared more about the relationship. Like I was just messaging with Andy Frisella last night, and we were just talking about nothing. Like I want nothing from you, bro. I was just talking to you about a car that he posted, and he couldn't believe that I knew what car he was in. But I was like, hey, I've got family with the same car. So it's like, just getting around these rooms and leading with my heart. And that's advice I could give to other people, is just be authentically you, lead with your heart, and then, be a servant in any way that you possibly can.
Yeah. It's funny, man. My connection to that sentiment you have, that I thought's been valuable, is I created a rule years ago. I've created all these rules in my life, which to me, they give me freedom. It's sort of a standards, core values. A lot of them are just triggers of how I want to operate. And they've just come over time. And I like teaching, what are your rules of your life? Like, what are the non-negotiables, stuff you're going to do? But one of them was this odd rule that I was just going to make a commitment for the rest of my life. So everything I do is long-term identity based, but I was just going to bleed in every room I walked into. I'm just going to leave my heart there, bleed. I don't care how ugly it looks, how bizarre it looked, because I know I'm high energy. I'm a high strung, passionate human. I got so much heart. I hit hard.
Right.
And I wasn't going to curate my words anymore. I wasn't going to try to tone myself down. I just made this commitment. So many years I try to be a chameleon. I try to fit in. I people please like a motherfucker, all this, how I talked, all that. And at some point when I started winning, I found some freedom in just bleeding. And like, I don't care if you don't like it or not. But what I found is people that I greatly admired were very drawn to it. Again, one of my partners is one of the wealthiest people in the world, and he's my land development partner. I can't tell you how I developed that relationship, except to just say this. Like, I don't know how I did it. I don't even know, because it's hard to get near a guy like this. Trust me.
Right.
And he's like I'm like a son to him. Like a son he doesn't have, which is crazy, because he has, 3 boys. None of them are like me. They came up pretty entitled. He didn't do quite well like your family did, brother. And it's sad, actually. But the one thing I would say is he sees the future of humanity seems a little bit brighter when he gets near me. And he sees he's younger. Right. He's 70. He's in his 70s. So he sees this younger generation, like your age, my age. And he sees these titans that are young titans that are starting to use their voice, and they're calling out bullshit, and they're calling out lies, and they're speaking truth, and they're bleeding for the sake of bleeding. And again, I was connected to a real purpose. Somehow I've been able to connect that thread, and he wants to help me now. Like that, he wants to gift me opportunity, because he sees me as a fighter for freedom. Like in a world where there's a lot of slavery still happening. Let's be honest. There's a lot of evil happening. I mean, even through COVID, we saw that this massive transfer of wealth just sucked right out of the middle class, inflation like we've never seen. Like all this shit's on purpose. Right. I have the courage to speak it out. And I connected to that rule, Jason, of I'm going to bleed. And I sense that in you. It's that honest nature. You're just going to give who you are. And then I got to watch you be around you, and you're right, man. Like you are such a been there, done that human, and it came from your childhood. That's what's rare about you, is you somehow adapted that scar tissue as a child, because you're still young. Right. I would still consider you a kid, honestly. Like, dude, you're young, bro. You have such a crazy future ahead of you. It'll be so cool now to have even my little audience as it grows. This episode will grow too, to see where you're at today and watch how you flourish as a leader beyond these years. I mean, you're gonna fill the shoes of your dad, no question. You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna be cool to watch you rise, bro. So, number one, congratulations on all your success, rising star. And
thank you.
I just love sort of loving on you for all that. But I know that you've definitely gone through hard times. Like, this always isn't like the easy streak that everyone thinks it is. A lot of times when you start winning in life and you start building infrastructure and there becomes a unique pressure. Now you have all these people relying on you, you have families where somehow they're believing in you and they're fitting their dreams inside yours. And that's what great culture is. That's what great leaders do, but it brings a ton of pressure if you care, especially. And I know there's got to be some war stories as you built businesses, as you build this RV business. I know that even in our world of furniture and retail, we had so many hard years where I had to show up and smile. But deep down, I was thinking, how am I going to make it till tomorrow? Like, just hard years that gave me the voice and the strength to go communicate. It's that scar tissue that I keep talking about. Where were your hard years? I know you have some. I know they're in there somewhere. They may be right now. Who knows? Maybe it's not what it seems.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a few times where, network marketing, where I was the number one ranked to waking up one day when the company sold and I had lost everything and was about to lose my house and everything. It was literally sweeping floors at a friend's construction company and building cabinets in the back, and then still trying to act like this big old network marketing figure with the new company that purchased us, and, not knowing what I'm going to do, how to even pay my mortgage, and then getting in the RV business. And everything is, it was a struggle at the first couple of years, and all of a sudden COVID took us off and it was gone to the promised land. I mean, we were making so much money. Our problem was figuring out what to do with it. Yeah. So we went and bought other dealerships because there was that older generation that was just trying to get out of the dealerships because COVID was scaring the hell out of them. And so I'm like, hey, we'll buy your store. And they were not very well performing pre-COVID, and then during COVID they were kicking ass.
Sure.
And so we bought them for hardly anything. Well, I didn't perfect anything. I didn't really know what I was doing in the RV business, and we got up to 9 dealerships within a couple year period, and it kind of came crashing down in 22 and 23, and where we offloaded some stores, have sold 5 stores. Now we're down to 4 here just in the state of Utah. And dude, it was freaking crazy. I mean, not knowing every single day, waking up and being like, is today the day that we're going to claim bankruptcy? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. But, I always told people, like, I can control today. Today, I'm not going to make the call to the attorney.
Yeah.
And so then the next day I can control today. And today I'm not going to make the call to the attorney, and just keep pushing on and pushing and pushing and pushing. It was crazy, man.
Yeah. We talked about this earlier before the show, that every great entrepreneur story's got these years in them. Like, they're in them, and many of them, they fold, they go bankrupt, they learn their lessons, they get back on the horse. I mean, it's so common. Right. Most people that don't do this work, that stay safe and don't take a risk on themselves, they'll never really understand what this feels like. But this, to me, is where like real stars are actually born, is in these years that now you've gone through. You were able to hang on, but it's all the same. It's the same pressure. It's the same feeling. This stuff can bring people to suicide. I've watched it destroy families. I've seen the pressure crush. And most people don't realize this. They think growth is good. And yeah, well, you're going to hear every entrepreneur in the world, all these personal developments say growth is great, but growth is very painful. Growth hurts. It's shredding muscle tissue apart on a daily basis. It's not fun. It's work like you wouldn't believe. It's actually much easier to just stay comfortable than it is to grow. Like, it's just, it's not what people think. Like, they always associate growth with like just pure winning. It's not. There's so much scar tissue in the growth itself that most people don't see. I know these pain points of wondering if you're going to make it through tomorrow. I feel like I felt that for years. And so many of the best stories I've heard are when someone will tell me every year it felt like they would barely make it in business. And now you're talking to someone who's like, a billionaire. You hear this so often, that business for them. So what I kept stumbling upon in sort of the backdrop of so many of the best people's infrastructures that I found is the cash flowing model was really only a vehicle to maybe squeeze out a piece of real estate here, maybe a piece of real estate here. And it was sort of that real estate that compounded over time that created the true passive net worth of a real individual. But it was that business that was barely hanging on. It was what it felt like year in and year out for years. I hear that a lot. Can you resonate with any of that
Right.
and maybe speak to that? Because deep beneath the surface of this, I think there's some valuable lessons in this conversation as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, dude, growth is great, but out of control growth is not great. It's just be like going to the gym and then just grabbing all these weights and just trying to work like all these weird things that you got going on and be like, I'm burning, I'm sweating. And it's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, it's not anything intentional. It's not anything purposeful. It's like, bodybuilders, they go to the gym. Like, I'm really good friends with Flex Lewis. Flex goes to the gym and he works out intentionally, a body part
Yeah,
intentionally,
one
and
muscle.
builds
Yeah.
this unbelievable body, right? Well, when I was just going, it was just crazy, and then all of a sudden everything started to implode, and I was like, okay, let me back up. But I have no problem backing up and saying, okay, I gotta offload everything. There's no jets, there's no lifestyle, there's no vacations. Let's just focus back and hammer down on the business. And it's really hard for people to do that sometimes because they kind of maybe have an ego and let everything can kind of get in the way of that. But hey, I care about making my dad proud. He's an investor. Like I care about all these different things where it meant more than me to just grind and grind it out. And what was the second part of the question?
Well, my connection was really is the pain of growing an actual business, the cash flow model. Really, a lot of the wealth that's actually created in the long term is where those investments land.
Yeah,
Those pieces
and
of
that's
dirt.
one thing I never really had a mentor telling me. So my dad's a little scarred because he had a couple $100 million worth of real estate in 2008.
Bad
It was
year.
all
Yeah,
commercial, and so he's a little
I
scarred.
believe it.
And so he's not the best mentor in real estate because he's like, I hate real estate, but I have a family member who his EBITDA is almost close to nine figures. And he's like, dude, I could really care less about this. It's all cash flow in real estate. And he's like, I want to get out of the headaches, get out of everything. I mean, he's got close to $1 billion in real estate. Probably it does have $1 billion in real estate now. But what I'm finding when you're getting into these elite circles, like there's a difference between an Instagram influencer driving a Lambo Huracan, right? But then there's a whole other level of, these guys that are kind of behind the shadows that you would never hear of that are an elite group of individuals in how they built their wealth. Most of it was like, hey, I actually, funny, I know a couple people with furniture that sold for, nine figures and now they're doing different things in real estate in in cash flowing other ways because like I love real estate because so say you have $1 million piece of real estate and the economy crashes and it technically goes to zero worth, let's just say crazy, something crazy, but then you're still cash flowing. Well, you're still cash flowing,
Sure.
right? And that's like the same payment. But dude, my dealerships can eat up
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5 million in cash in 1 month and then still be worth nothing.
Right.
And so it's a completely different game. And so that's what I'm trying to do is create. I got a lot of plans. I obviously need, a real estate partner, but I have a lot of really interesting plans. What I have to do, what I would like to do in real estate, in actually the RV
Sure.
business.
Well, yeah. I mean, think about like if you knowing what you know now, if you can go back when you were cash heavy, knowing just again, hindsight's always 2020. I'd love to sit
Yep.
in this for a minute because now I'm curious. Just start picking the apart in your industry. Where did you see the biggest problems start popping up, and why do you think you were having them inside the RV business? What was it, 2021 or 22? Because COVID
It
caused a
was, it
surge,
was,
right? And then what happened?
yeah. It was 2022. Inventory problem. Just way over inventory. Like, so we have these things called curtailments. So we finance all of our inventory. And so then you have these things called curtailments, which are essentially principal payments that you have to pay monthly. And it's like between 2 and 10% a month of the principal. Dude, our
Hmm.
our principal pay, our curtailment payment last February in 23 was almost $900,000. That doesn't hit a balance sheet or a bottom line.
Right.
That's just cash you pay the bank to pay down your units. That doesn't include the money we lost. And that's 1 month. It can be monthly. And so a lot of that gets cash flow gets kind of crazy when you're in taking in cash, but then you're paying $900,000 a month in a principal payment. And then you're selling your inventory at what you owe instead of what the invoice was. So there's no delta recouping. There's no
Sure.
recouping of any of the cash because the new inventory is 10 or 15% less as the old inventory. So just to match the inventories, you have to sell them less. And so that's really what got us in a dicey situation in the industry. And we were just too leveraged at that point and had to reel things back. But crazy thing now is we're with the, what I've been able to do and we've been able to do as a team in the last few months is been able to dial it in. And man, for the first time in 14 months, we're cash positive for the first month.
Hell yeah.
Man, I'm super stoked.
I'm so glad you got through it, man. A lot of businesses would have folded. It takes great leadership under pressure to be able to get through those times. What were some of the things you did as a leader that kept your company going one direction, even when the whole thing's literally was feeling like it was probably on a house of cards?
Oh, dude. I mean, I had creditors looking for me. I had people looking for me. I had everything. It was wild, man. Especially when we had to do some layoffs. I had literally death threats from people trying to come to my house and mailing me some, not so great things.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of crazy. But man, I just have this like such a deep burning desire to win and prove everybody wrong now that nothing mattered. And I have this weird thing and this is probably not good, but like my wife could literally text me like, hey, I'm leaving. I just filed for divorce, blah, 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 blah. I'm taking everything. And I would seriously look at the text and just put it back down and just stay in this conversation and not even think about it.
Mm.
So I just have that weird thing that I just keep, I'm 100% present in the moment and I can only control what I can control. I can't control if the bank's going to come repossess the inventory today, but what I can control is revenue and sales. And I'm pretty damn good negotiator. So I negotiated some pretty crazy things, but just keep pushing through and pushing through and pushing through and keep that mind sharp.
So good.
And just get hyper obsessed with winning.
Yeah. So this is what real pressure feels like. Like you have pressure from so many different places and there's 100 families. Way more than that. I'm just going to use the number 100. There's all these families depending on you to make sure that you meet that payroll so that they can eat.
Yep.
Like that's the pressure that you want to get rich. Well, then there you go. Go seek this life out of pressure. If you can't handle pressure, good luck ever winning in life because everything is pressure. Even in being in a batter's box in the major leagues, that pressure of being in the arena, in the box, facing a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. I mean, that's pressure, right? Doesn't matter what you do, what your craft is. If you can't step up to that batter's box and handle that pressure, you're going to fool. So many people will never seek out greatness, even though they talk a lot. They say it because they really can't handle pressure. So you're clearly someone that can handle pressure at the highest levels, like the highest levels. I love trying to think about like some of the greatest business stories in the world are like, how did you do it during that period of time or that period of time? It was when the whole thing was about to fall apart. Even some of the Trump stories I remember reading as a kid, I remember reading how he would use bankruptcy to really just renegotiate with banks, just creative, using all the laws and rules to win, to be able to find leverage, to find that advantage. You seem to me from an outside perspective to be someone that builds good culture inside the business. Through personal brand, I think that you're tapping into that. You're building culture around everything that is underneath you, including all your businesses, all the people that are in those businesses. How important was really keeping culture alive and well, even though you were dying inside? How do you do that? Like, what is a strategy to keep your people hungry and working their ass off to keep this thing going? Because it's way more than just you. I know that.
Right. Yeah, no, it's leading from the front and leading by example. And, I forfeited my paycheck it's been over 12 months now that I haven't paid myself, and not that my team's business, but my team knows like, hey, I don't get paid until we figure this out together. And I've actually had people come up to me of like, hey, like I'll forfeit, I'll defer my paycheck if it helps us do this, it helps us do that. But how we've been able to create that is, I have a podcast I'm sitting in my studio right now called Culture Camp. And I do a lot of culture consulting and culture and coaching and different things like that. And, I've dove so deep in it that I've actually been certified with over a lot of different things and created a software for personalities, disc personalities in particular, but then management styles, personality styles, and then energy, where your energy goes. And so we have this software that actually take this test for, a bunch of different questions. And then it creates this about 40 to 50 page report, depending on the individual, and then tells us all about the individual. And so that's like the detailed side of a lot of what we do, because we want to build this team and like play the Moneyball game with teams and like put the right people in the right seats. But then the biggest thing is just believing in the team. And when I had to reduce everything, reduce staff, I laid a lot of our corporate staff off, and then my two main guys, I won't forget the day they walked out on me and left me and said, you're never going to succeed and we're done. And I was like, I'm literally, we were in the middle of some talks with another store buying us. And I'm literally negotiating. I was literally in the state of Florida negotiating a deal for me and these guys to have ownership. And they made sure that I was on the airplane and couldn't call them, and literally shot me a text and said, hey, resign, after paying them millions of dollars and 5 years of my life. But so that was like, okay, watch me. So I'm in the airplane just obsessing, and I'm like, hey, how am I going to get everybody to buy in? So then I landed, my general managers are freaking out. So I literally talked to him at 1 o'clock in the morning and was like, guys, we dialed it in. Hey, what are our values? We literally have culture cards that I got mine in my wallet right here. Every single individual in the whole company has these cards, and it says our values. And it says our mission statement, because we live by our values. We live by our mission statement. And I started talking about our values and how important everything is. And trust is one of them. And I just asked everybody, do you trust me? Because if you don't, this is the last call you're ever going to be on. And if you do, we're going to just grind, and it's going to be a grind together. And I'm going to be at a store every single day. And I was at a store every single day. Yeah. And we had leadership meetings. We had book clubs, because when the pressure gets to people, they start to lose their mind a little bit and like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I get so hyper-focused, dude. I'm down 50 pounds of pretty much muscle because I've been so hyper-focused. I don't care about eating. I was up for 80 hours straight one time. Let's go. I don't care about sleeping. I don't care about hanging out with friends. I don't care about hanging out with family. I don't care about going to a jazz game. We're going to freaking win.
It's my dog.
We're going to get so hyper-focused.
I love it.
And I've been able to get my managers and get the team on board like that. And then just being honest with them, be like, hey guys, if you guys don't succeed and hit these numbers, we are claiming bankruptcy. Yeah. So we either claim bankruptcy and we close the stores, or you're going to hit your numbers you choose.
Let's go.
And we just got everybody dialed in and everybody bought into what we're doing, but then also treating people with respect, having the right people in the right seats, and then not letting, I had a guy running the company that would let people with poor performance stay because he was so scared about having people in a seat. Hey, get him out of there, get him out of there, get him out of there. So I started just going and chopping the fat that didn't need to be there, getting the right people in the right seats, hitting the numbers that we had to hit, and change the entire culture around.
So good.
To this, not only of everybody gets a trophy, like that's the old regime that I used to have running the company.
Sure.
Because I used to be very hands off, right? But now it's like this high performance winning culture. That's either we're going to win and you're going to perform, because if you do not perform, you take dinner off of our technicians.
Yes.
Place. You help, you, whatever you do, you affect everybody else. And so I started to kind of dissect everything on how that worked and how the whole dealership went round. And everybody was like, oh, if I don't sell a trailer, then my technicians don't get a trailer to work on, and then they don't feed their family. Yeah. No shit. Bro. So let's, we gotta go through this.
That was probably one of my favorite like business insight segments that I've done. So much of what we do, it gets really emotional. It gets, a lot of value Man on Mission podcast brings to the world. Trust me. But that is the truth right there. When the fire's on, this is what winning looks like. Yeah. My wife texts me, she's divorcing me, and let's go. I got to fucking work. Bro, I don't even know what it's like to be married to a guy like you. I can't imagine what my wife's trying to deal with being married to a guy like me, but I resonate. Like, I feel that it's so real. Like, when the desire to win is that good and you just have tunnel vision and the pressure's on, dude, I love pressure because it's where all the greatness in me comes out at the highest levels. And I see that in you. Like, the pressure's what you needed to get to where you're at today, mentally, physically, spiritually. And the evolution of you, once you refine the cash flow position, now you're green again. This
Mhm.
scar tissue will serve you so well, bro. This is the stuff that might take you to the White House. Like it's these years that guy like Jason Haugen needs. And I love it, man. You
Right.
lit up when you talked about culture. And it's funny, your whole podcast, I didn't even know this, is about culture.
Yep.
These salespeople you have, we're getting close to our hour. I literally, now that I'm getting into a groove with you, I could rap all day. Like we could just go. And because
Yeah.
but for sake of time, I want to make sure I'm always kind of touching in the places where I think there's insane value. I always tell people this: if you can't sell, you can't win. You just can't. You
Right.
got to sell. And if you don't know how to sell, you got to figure out how to sell, because anyone can learn how to sell. So
Right.
that's so important for the culture building aspect of this, I'm sure. What has been some tactics or things that you brought in, some investments even that you might have made that you think are incredibly valuable to trying to teach these guys how to really sell, which I think is really, really important. And for years, I mean, that was my go-to. I found my own sales style through years. And sometimes it was one guy that saved the day. It was one customer that literally I would have died for. Like, that's what it felt like. I would have gone to the ends of the earth. And then there are some cases where it's like, we don't even have margin. We just need to cash in. Like literally like burying me, but let's get the sale. Like, we know what that feels like because you need it so
100%.
bad, but
all year last year.
Trust me, man. I feel this so much. I swear to God, I feel this, bro. But so I love the conversation of sales. Could you just give your spin on the importance of sales?
The sales are so important. I mean, revenue solves a lot of problems, and then revenue with margin solves all problems.
Totally.
No, I'm just kidding. I always tell the team that,
sales cure all ills.
Exactly. I break a lot of sales down. So one, we do have Andy Elliott and the Elliott Group doing a lot of our sales training. Ian Macklin, specifically,
stud,
fantastic
love
individual. So all my team has access to all their trainings.
Is it good? I've never
does some of my trainings. And
you think it's good? You think they're really good?
For RVs and car,
yeah, they're good, huh?
For sure,
dude. That whole machine from the outside looking in, it might look a little gimmicky or a little tacky even, but when you're in the energy bubble of what they actually do, dude, they're money. Like, I'm sold.
Oh, yeah.
I love to be sold too. I love good salesmen, like, because I want the salesman to win. I don't even care about the car half the time. As much as I do is I want this kid to get the commission because I like him so much. You see how I feel about younger versions of myself that were hungry, that were asking for the sale, that were connecting, that really I thought cared. Sales are amazing. Like, I love this. But anyway, keep going, man. I give a shout out to Andy Elliott here if we can, because that guy's a fucking stud, bro. All those Ian's a stud, his brother.
Yeah, they're amazing. And Andy's become a really good friend. He shoots me texts all the time and is like, bro, I'm not gonna lie. When we first met, I didn't think you were gonna make it, but hey, I'm proud of it. So that means a lot.
Very cool.
But other things that we do is like, I don't love the word like sales associate. So we start calling our salespeople adventure advisors because our whole theme is adventure without limits. Cool. So we literally break it down to the emotional side of buying a trailer or an RV, because we're not necessarily a necessity. Right. And so caring more about the memories they're going to create with their families, with their friends, with their people. Like, we're healing people like mentally, because they're going to go out into the wilderness and be grounded and do everything that they got to do. And so we've kind of shifted the psychology of our salespeople, which in turns translates to our customers. So like, we really care about like you and the memories you're going to create. And then we also break it down to the literal psychology and the personality styles, the DISC, and being able to quickly identify what personality they are. Perfect. So you can frame the entire sale, what's going to serve them the best, so they can enjoy the sale.
Sure.
Right. Because if you're framing the whole sale and you're extremely detail oriented to a high I personality, you're going to lose them and they're going to be like, this is just too difficult.
True.
But if you have that C personality that's like that engineer, and you're not hitting every little point of what they want to know, then they're going to be like, hey, this person's an idiot. They don't know what they're doing. So being able to identify those quick personality traits and then adapting to the customer to serve the customer. Our number one job is to serve the customer. My number one job as a CEO is to serve my employees. And so we have this whole servant chain of this is what we're here to do. And at the end of the day, we're in the customer service business and helping families create memories. That's the whole goal of our business.
Oh, I love it, man. Yeah, you're essentially what I hear you doing is you're really connected to the psychology of what matters most in life inside the sale. And again, you're right. It's not a necessity in RV. It's funny. I have a client that I work with, a one-on-one guy that's building a hell of a business in the boat world. So he does boat stuff. And one of the first places we went, he doesn't have a mission. I was like, "What do you got? Have a mission, bro? Your whole staff needs to have a buy-in to a mission." And like, what is it? We started chopping up what it is. And the reality of what the message I think we got to once I dug into him and really trying to tell him of what me as a consumer, I own boats. I live on a lake. How do I feel about you trying to win my business over, right? Like really thinking about it. Dude, remind me that life is short and I'm here to have fun. Like, that's it. That's what a boat means. A boat is fun. Right. A boat is family. It's memories. It's pictures. It's fun. It's being the cool fucking guy in the family that all the people want to come hang out at the house. Like, that's it. Remind me of that. Don't make it about service. Don't make it about broken boats or whatever you're fixing. Like, we do the hard work. You do the fun. And that became his mission. We do the hard work, you do the fun. Like, really simple, but sticky, right? And what the buy-in for the culture of the salespeople, of all the mechanics, all the people that are in his massive empire working for him, they now believe that they're helping families curate messages and have fun. They're buying into that they're actually mattering to someone's longevity in their life and their happiness. It's no longer about a boat. It's so much more than that. So I think that's what you just said. Sure. But so many values in this that are important, because nobody talked to me like this, Jason. All the years I was growing businesses and building them, nobody talked to me this way. I didn't tap into social media till later, so I didn't have access to all these influencers or these information or these business titans. I had some books, but a lot of it was just raw instinct for me. And what I learned for me, the greatest was the customers would teach me in real time. And that's kind of how I got my core. But man, bro, having access to you is a game changer. You literally alone could go help so many people, Jason, just by stepping out in the light, telling what worked for you, what didn't. You've been through hell and back, bro. Where can people go find you if they want to get in your world, listen to your podcast, connect with you, work for you? Where can we send them?
Yeah. Best to connect with me on Instagram at Jason Haugen. It's just Jason, then Haugen, just my name. The podcast is everywhere where you can listen to a podcast called Culture Camp. And I talk a lot about culture on there. And then I've also had a little mini series where I want to be the guy that is telling you that I'm going through hell right now. And this is how I'm getting through my week. And that's what I did for a while on the podcast, because I didn't want to be the guy that's on a stage one day that's like, oh yeah, in 2023, 5 years ago, this is what I did. Yeah. It's like, no, this is what I'm doing last week, because there's so many people that are walking through the fire right now, and I want to let you know that you are not alone. And a lot of us are going through it, and the real raw business people are not afraid to say it, because this is when we get better. Read the book, Good to Great. Yep. It happens to everybody.
It's true.
And so, sorry, didn't mean to go on a little tangent.
I love it.
Yeah, hit me up on podcast, YouTube, Instagram, all over the place.
Jason, thank you, man. You are a gift. I wish I would have had 2 hours with you. I'll probably do this again, maybe in person. You fly up to Coeur d'Alene this summer. I'll show you how beautiful.
I'd love to.
Yeah, we're going to do an event up here too. Actually, I got an event this week with Ben Newman, man. You're welcome to come if you want to come up here real quick. It's a quick direct flight from Utah, man. But I'd love to have you out to Coeur d'Alene. Okay. Get you in the studio, because this conversation, any one little part of it, you could have easily expanded upon for a whole hour alone. Even one little tiny topic. It's hard to kind of cover the bone structure, the foundation of who you are. And man, but thank you for doing this. I got a lot of respect, a lot of love for you, bro. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me. It really means a lot. I'd absolutely love to get up to Coeur d'Alene. I think I've only been there one time. It's the most beautiful place I've ever been to. So, but there's much respect for you, much love for you, man. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for this podcast, because the world needs it, and just appreciate you.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it, Doc. Hey, you guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like the show, please go like, follow, subscribe, share it. If there's any value here, value for your employees, your network, your customers, anywhere, share it with them. Spread the love, spread the message. These are people like Jason that are out in the marketplace that are actually fighting evil, whether you believe it. These are the people that keep the world going around. So thank you, Jason. Thank you for watching the show. Thank you to all the people out there that are contributing to this energy, this ball of energy that I think is so valuable for society and children. I always attach my message to children. So thank you all for listening. Man on a mission, babe. We'll see you next time. I'm a man.